All right, we are live. Everything's good over here. Perfect. Let's look at the latest updates from SpaceX. They had this really cool live stream. I didn't watch it because I totally want to focus on my French exam right now, so I am not consuming a lot of English content. But all right, now is the time. Now is the time to do it. They had a pretty cool picture. They had a really cool picture of a bunch of Optimus robots who are there's an early photo from the construction of Empire State Building where there these construction workers were just sitting like way on the top, like whatever 60th floor, 50th floor on the top of Manhattan, and they're literally sitting on they're literally sitting on this one big rod. I don't know what you call it, one big horizontal pillar, and they're sitting and it's like up in the air, and looks kind of dangerous, but now they were used to it. So there was this picture from like 50 years ago, 60 years ago, and they kind of recreated that with Optimus bots on Mars. So that was pretty cool. But let's look into this latest developments from SpaceX. Also, I just read that they are launching a new factory called Gigabay, which is going to be producing 1,000 starships per year. And that looks massive. All right, let's see. I also got better. We're no more sick. SpaceX is preparing for Starship Test Flight 9 with Starship 35 undergoing testing at the Massey's test site in Texas. FAA approved the return to flight after an engine hardware failure caused a setback during Starship Flight 8 in March 25. Approved the return to flight. The company aims to enhance reliability for this massive, fully reusable rocket designed for Moon and Mars mission. Starlink expansion. Expand its Starlink constellation with a successful launch of 26 satellites from Vandenberg Space Force Base in May 25. I also believe like they have now made Starbase, Texas. They have incorporated Starbase, Texas as a new city where all these factories are based and the launch pad is based. Marking 450th landing of a Falcon booster is also making strides globally with partnerships in India, Reliance Jio and Bharti Airtel, and a new presence in Somalia, though regulatory hurdles persist in some regions like India. Okay, very interesting, very interesting. Latest updates, Economic Times. Departure from Doge to focus on Tesla. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal engaged with Starlink representative to discuss their innovative technology, current collaboration. Crewed mission. Return NASA astronauts Anita Williams and Buzz Wilmore to Earth March 25 after an extended 9-month stay at the ISS aboard the Crew Dragon Freedom. Polaris Dawn mission achieved the first private spacewalk, a major milestone in commercial space exploration. NASA partnership launched its 32nd commercial resupply mission to the ISS in April 25, carrying experiments on vision-based navigation, spacecraft air quality, and plant growth and microgravity. Spacecraft air quality. Interesting. Plant growth and microgravity. I want to learn more about like all the experiments, like mainly what people are doing, mainly what the scientists and astronauts are doing in the ISS are conducting a bunch of experiments in the space with those conditions. I would like to learn more about that. What are the recent? Actually, let's quickly see what are what are some interesting science experiments being run on ISS. Let's see, I don't want to cough too much. Business infrastructure valuation reached 350 billion in 2024, reflecting its dominance in the launch market with 425 successful Falcon rocket launches. Relocated its headquarters to Starbase, which is on track to become an official city to support SpaceX's operation. Secured a 6 billion. This is crazy. This is crazy. He built a city for his company. Wow. 6 billion Pentagon contract for Space Force satellite launches, though this has sparked controversy with potential conflict of interest. News now. Ghosted this company meeting hours before stepping down from Trump government. Okay. Announced departure from Doge to focus on Tesla. We got that. Faces growing competition from rivals like Amazon's Project Kuiper and Blue Origin, as well as geopolitical tensions with countries like Germany and Ukraine exploring Starlink alternatives for secure communication. All right, let's see this one. Cutting edge scientific experiments leveraging its unique microgravity environment. Plant habitat. Oh, 7 plant responses to water stress. How outred outrageous romaine lettuce and its microbial communities respond to varying water levels and microgravity. Explores plant microbe interactions under stress. Well, this is one of the most interesting thing about AI that I found. Like I was just listening about. Okay, I'm since my childhood I've been exposed, or I've been surrounded by people who definitely felt pretty good with less than 8 hours of sleep. And I always was like, wait, why are am I is something wrong with me that I need 8 hours of sleep and sometimes even 9 hours of sleep? And it made me feel bad that, whoa, why do I need 8 hours of sleep or 9 hours of sleep while other people in my family, other people around me, they are okay with just 6 hours of sleep? But today I was just like walking around, I was like, okay, let me ask AI this question. And I'm like, okay, who are some well-known personalities that need more than 8 hours of sleep? And it's like, oh yeah, it says LeBron James. LeBron James, I think I forgot what it said, but I think it said like LeBron James need pretty much 11 hours of sleep, and that include 11 to 12 hours of sleep, and that includes his nighttime sleep plus a bunch of naps that he's taking for recovery. And that makes sense. Like these guys who are going for extreme sports, extreme physical activity during the day, they need extreme recovery as well. They need a really good, they need to perform. Like even recovery is a performance for them. And similar with Tom Brady, and they also mentioned Albert Einstein, who was like 9 hours of sleep, and Ariana Huffington and Jennifer Lopez, because she's like, yeah, good sleep makes my skin look beautiful. And this makes so much sense. And Matthew McConaughey, even McConaughey was talking about, yeah, like going to bed early, but also not like, oh yeah, I wake up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., something like that. But this is very interesting. This is very interesting because this is very interesting because there's no way I could have in there's no way I could have just asked Google this question that, oh, tell me who are some people, uh, but you can ask these questions to AI like, hey, you have all the data. I'm going to ask you a question and just pull out all these tiny details that you now know, and which would have taken me a lot of digging into, but you just know, so you can just pull them all together. And that is crazy. Like, and it also is saying reportedly, which makes me think like some of this data would be like hidden in a random article. Because most of the time, if you are looking at, let's say, a Matthew McConaughey interview, he's talking about his films, he's talking about his life, he's not talking about his sleep routine and how much sleep he needs. This might be hidden somewhere in an article, dug deep into. What was the right word, like deep into an article or something, a random article where out of the entire interview, like he spent like 10 seconds talking about that, oh yeah, I sleep for 9 hours. But now AI can actually do that. And that is crazy. That is crazy. But yeah, all right, let's get back. And I definitely want to do more of this. I definitely want to, as ideas come into my mind, I want to explore these ideas with ChatGPT, understanding that, okay, ChatGPT has been trained on entire internet's data, and I want to use it like that, where a normal information that a normal information, normal pattern that it would take me a lot of time to dig into by myself, but just by reading and researching, I could just ask it, considering that it knows everything and it has already dug deep into all these specific details. So we gotta make more use of AI. Respond to varying levels, water levels, and microgravity. It explores plant microbe interactions under stress, aiming to optimize crop production for space missions. Results could improve agriculture in harsh environments on Earth and ensure sustainable food production for long duration space missions like those to Mars. The microgravity environment allows researchers to isolate water stress effects without gravity driven water flow interference. Hmm. Optimize crop production for space missions. Antarctic moss and microgravity radiation. Combined effect of microgravity and cosmic radiation on Antarctic moss exposed to ISS environment to study their resilience and adaptation. Moss is highly resistant to extreme conditions, making it a model for studying life support systems and potential terraforming applications on other planets. Findings could also enhance our understanding of radiation tolerant organisms for Earth based biotechnology. Hmm. Genomic enumeration of antibiotic resistance in space. surveys the assets for antibiotic resistant bacteria such as Enterococcus faecalis and Enterococcus faecium, which are harder in space than on Earth. It uses genomic sequences to identify resistance pattern. Microgravity enhances bacterial resistance is critical for astronaut health during long missions where infections could be harder to treat. Results may also inform strategies to combat antibiotic resistance on Earth, especially in hospitals. Hmm. Biofabrication facility tissue printing. 3D print human tissue, including a whole human meniscus, knee cartilage, in microgravity. Printed and cured in space, then analyzed on Earth. Printed and cured in space, then analyzed on Earth. Microgravity allows for more precise tissue formation without gravity-induced cell settling, potentially revolutionizing organ transplants by addressing shortages. This could lead to scalable production of complex tissue for clinical use with applications for knee injuries and beyond. Cold atom lab quantum experiments creates Bose-Einstein condensates, a fifth state of matter, by cooling atoms to near absolute zero. A replacement module was sent in March 24 to continue quantum experiments while troubleshooting upgraded equipment. BECS allows scientists to study quantum mechanics in ways impossible on Earth, where gravity disrupts these delicate states. This research could advance quantum computing, precision sensors, and fundamental physics with potential applications in navigation and cryptography. So, Fonster, microalgae protein production. Experiment investigates how microgravity affects protein production by chlorella microalgae used in products like ice cream. Astronauts test protein yield under space conditions. Microalgae are a sustainable protein source for space missions, reducing reliance on Earth supplied food. On Earth, findings could enhance food security by optimizing microalgae based nutrition for vegan diets or resource scarce region. It just reminds me of something, and let's quickly check. Where you live is so important. And I was just thinking about this. I remember one of the early podcasts that I did. Okay, so it doesn't say. One of the early podcasts I did, I got super lucky with interviewing this one person, Natalie Brunel. And I still remember that I had just started my job. Bitcoin was at a low price. I did this interview. At the end of the interview, she recommended this one book. I read that book and I was like, wow, I am sold on Bitcoin. And I bought Bitcoin. And since then, Bitcoin has grown a lot. So I credit a lot of my Bitcoin, a lot of the gains to just this one connection that I had. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting how just one right person telling you about the right opportunity, you going deep and researching about it, and you then investing in that can change some things. All right. Microgravity investigation on cement solidification. How cement hardens in microgravity, using AI to create 3D models from 2D microscope images of cement samples. Constructing lunar or Martian habitats using local materials like regolith. Insights could improve concrete manufacturing for stronger, more sustainable structures. Colloidal clusters, JAXA, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, uses oppositely charged particles to form pyramid-shaped clusters, a building block for diamond lattice structures. Could enable advanced light manipulation materials for optics and photonics, with applications in space-based solar panels or high-efficiency lasers. Ensures uniform cluster formation unhindered by gravity-driven sedimentation. Pyramid-shaped clusters enable advanced light manipulation materials for optics and photonics. Space-based solar panels or high-efficiency lasers. Microgravity ensures uniform cluster formation. Wow, this is very similar to what the work that WARDA is doing. WARDA is basically not doing that for, I think they might be looking into these materials as well, colloidal clusters, because that is their entire concept, that how do we manufacture in space, because due to microgravity, you can just make things more uniform. You can create materials, you can create things that are more uniform. That could be medicine, that could be just like small material that with high margins. Cement solidification, microalgae, quantum experiments. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to SpaceX because this is what we were here for. Starship 35 rolling out to Massey's test site today for more testing ahead of upcoming Flight 9. Wow, look at it. It's big. It's big. Dragon cargo spacecraft will wait one more day before departing the station. Meanwhile, the EXP 73 crew focus on microgravity research to improve health on and off Earth. S-35 heads for another visit to Massey's. Wow. Look at the heat shield. Approved SpaceX Starship vehicle return to flight statement. One step closer to being multiplanetary. Starship test flight 9 could launch as soon as May 27. Resolve issues from flight 8 and clear the path for Artemis and Mars is more than a test, it's preview. Wow. Look at this. Look at this. Clears path of SpaceX Starship Flight 9 with conditions. Approved license modifications for SpaceX upcoming Starship Flight 9, greenlighting up to 25 launches per year from Boca Chica. But there's a catch, no liftoff until the FAA closes its investigation to flight it or makes a formal return to flight decision. But the patch stays cold until regulators give the all clear. Key regulatory hurdle cleared with Elon's next move resting on bureaucratic timing, not rocket readiness. Just lit up the skies. All 6 Raptor engines burned clean, no hiccups, no flames out the top, just heat in progress. SpaceX hasn't named a launch date yet, but both stages are greenlit. Boca Chica. Whoa, what is this? Okay. Be out to receive their biggest workout to date. They've attached 14 bags in ranging size that need more confirmation on how could we max out to 910T. And a third. Okay, I think we need to look into SpaceX, like what was exactly launched or what exactly happened. All right, right here. Falcon 9 launches GPS 37 to orbit, completing SpaceX's second accelerated mission to the Space Force DoD. Space Force DoD, United States Space Force. Wow. Official US Space Force Twitter, the appearance of hyperlinks does not mean endorsement. Common moderation and endorsement policy. Deployment of GPS 37 payload confirmed. Falcon 9's first stage has landed on the A shortfall of Gravitas drone ship. Four, three, two, one. Chopsticks are out. Today's mission is also Falcon 9's seventh launch of a GPS satellite, helping provide everyday navigation on your phone and your car, in addition to enabling autonomous vehicles, disaster response organizations, banking transactions, advanced defense capabilities, and more. GPS 3 is the next generation of satellites required to maintain the GPS constellation's resiliency and improve services to meet user demand. Falcon's reusability makes missions like GPS 3, 7, and RRT 1 possible, providing rapid and reliable readiness to deliver assured access to space. Launching the payload to orbit in 3 months. RRT. Happy Demo 2 Day. Today marks the 5th anniversary of Falcon 9 returning human spaceflight capabilities to the United States.
Excited everybody was. We hope it brings a little bit of brightness to a pretty tough 2020.
Wow. Wow. In 5 years, Dragon has flown 17 human spaceflight missions that have achieved incredible feats. Earth's both for the first time reaching the highest altitude within Earth's orbit in 50 plus years. Wow. This photo is really cool. This photo is really cool. Wow. Travel to space and help make life multiplanetary. Wow. 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 Targeting Friday, May 30th for Falcon 9 launch. Wow. The road to making life multiplanetary. An update from Elon Musk on SpaceX plan to reach Mars. Wow, that's the SpaceX headquarters. Wow.
All right, all operators on Captain 1. Flight directors go for launch.
What is that? Bro, what is that? This is crazy. This photo is crazy. Everything just shining steel.
Stage separation. Booster landing burn startup. Stall for the track one. Booster has landed.
Yeah. There you go. All right. The gateway to Mars.
Also, it's kind of, that was very interesting when the dragon was attached to the ISS, because you can easily see like how the dragon is so advanced. Look at these screens, look at that entire spacesuit, and then you look at the ISS, which is like built in 50, 60 years ago.
So here we are. Here we are at the newly incorporated Starbase, Texas. This is the first new city made in America in, I think, quite a few decades. At least that's what I'm told. And very cool name. And it's named that because it is where we're going to develop the technology necessary to take humanity and civilization and life as we know it to another planet for the first time in the 4.5 billion year history of Earth.
All right, very similar to the concept of Balaji's network school or network state. If there is a new city being developed, where would you want to be? Would you want to be in Starbase or not?
So go with this little video here. This is how it started off with basically nothing. So Starbase started off as basically a sandbar with nothing. Even those little things we built, obviously. That's the original sort of Mad Max rocket. So we discovered lighting is very important for that Mad Max rocket. So yeah, not that long ago, there was basically nothing here. And in the space of about 5 or 6 years, thanks to the incredible work of the SpaceX team, we've built a small city. And we've built 2 gigantic launch pads and a gigantic rocket factory for a gigantic rocket. And the cool thing is, for anyone out there who's watching this, you can actually come and visit because our entire production facility and launch site are on a public highway. So anyone who comes to South Texas can come and see the rocket pretty close up.
Okay, we are definitely doing a Starbase visit. Visit Starbase, Texas.
And see the factory, and so anyone who's interested in seeing the largest flying object on Earth can come here anytime they want and just drive down the public highway and see it, which is pretty cool. So then we progress to where we are now, Starbase 2025. where we are now. Start base 2025. So we're now at the point where we can produce a ship roughly every 2 or 3 weeks. Now, we don't always produce a ship every 2 or 3 weeks because we are making design upgrades. But ultimately, we're aiming for the ability to produce 1,000 ships a year, so 3 ships.
Wow. Wow. This looks amazing. The office looks amazing. Wow. It's kind of crazy. Like when you work at SpaceX, how close do you feel to people at Tesla? And when you work at Tesla, how close do you feel to people at SpaceX?
A day. So that's where things are now. I'm standing in that building. That's our holograph. We're driving booster down the road to the launch site. You can see the mega bays. And as I said, what's cool, the cool thing for those out there watching this video is that you can actually just literally come here, drive down the road and see it, which is the first time in history that that's been possible. So all this cool stuff, that road on the left there, that highway is public, and you can just come here and see it, which I recommend doing. I think it's very inspiring to see. So that's our Gigabay. So we're expanding integration to produce 1,000 starships per year.
1,000 starships basically means that you're producing at least like 2 to 3 starship per day. Wow.
Well, yeah, that hasn't been built yet, but we're building it. That is a truly enormous structure. So that'll be one of the biggest structures. I think by some measures, the biggest structure in the world. And it's designed for 1,000 starships a year.
You also got the cyber cap.
We're also building a Gigabay in Florida. So we'll have 2 facilities, one in Texas and one in Florida. It's actually difficult to gauge the size of these buildings because you need a kind of human for scale. When you see how tiny a human is next to that building, you realize just how enormous it is.
Build comparison vehicles per year. B-24 Starlink Sats.
So when we look at our build comparison vehicles per year, and so look at Boeing and Airbus making airplanes, Starship will be making at some point probably as many Starships for Mars as Boeing and Airbus make commercial airplanes. So this is really a scale, an enormous scale. And each Starship will have a capability. Each Starship is bigger than a 747 or an A380. Like,
Wait, what happened to Elon's eye?
each Starship is bigger
Whoa.
than a 747 or an A380. Like, it's truly enormous. And then in terms of Starship, so Starlink satellites, the version 3 satellites, making on the order of 5,000 a year, maybe at some point closer to 10,000 a year. And those Starlink V3 satellites are each the size of roughly a 737. They're pretty big. That compares to the B-24 bomber in World War II. Now, it's still small compared to Tesla. And Tesla will probably be doing, double or triple that volume in the future. So it just puts things into perspective that it is actually possible to build a vast number of interplanetary starships. Anyway, you can compare things on the tonnage.
Progress is measured by the timeline to establishing a self-sustaining civilization on Mars.
At that point, Tesla is still, and other car companies, still building far more complex manufactured tonnage than SpaceX, which is really a way of saying that it's very achievable. Like these numbers, while they are insanely high by traditional space standards, are achievable by humans because they've been achieved in other industries. Progress is measured by the timeline to establishing a self-sustaining civilization on Mars. That's how we're gauging our progress here at Starbase. So with each launch, especially in the early days of Starship, each launch is about learning more and more about what's needed to make life multiplanetary and to improve Starship to the point where it can be.
Wow. Being live streamed on X. Talking about SpaceX and rockets about Mars. And comparing that production with Tesla.
Taking ultimately hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to Mars. Ideally, we can take anyone who wants to go to Mars, we can take to Mars. and bring all of the equipment necessary to make Mars self-sustaining, so Mars can grow by itself in a worst-case scenario, getting to the point where the fundamental fork in the road for human destiny is where Mars can continue to grow even if the supply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason. At that point, we've achieved civilizational resilience, where Mars can potentially come to the rescue of Earth if something goes wrong, or maybe Earth can come to the rescue of Mars. But having two planets that are both self-sustaining and strong, I think is going to be incredibly important for the long-term survival of civilization. So, just like any given civilization is likely to last maybe, I don't know, 10 times longer, maybe much longer, if it is a multi-planet civilization than if it is a single-planet civilization. Because there's always some chance that us humans could do something crazy like World War III. Hopefully not, but it's possible. Or that there could be some natural event like meteors or supervolcanoes or something that we don't expect. And then if we only have one planet, then that could be curtains. But if we have two planets, we keep going, and then we go beyond Mars ultimately to the moon, maybe the asteroid belt, the moons of Jupiter, and beyond, and ultimately to other star systems. And we can be out there among the stars, making science fiction no longer fiction. So in order to achieve this goal, we have to make rapidly reusable rockets, so that the cost per flight, the cost per ton to Mars, is as low as possible. That's essential. So for that, rapidly reusable rockets. That's it.
This is very interesting. What is the business? The business is basically do what you want to do, but in order to do what you want to do, you still want to make money. You need money, so you offer a service to other people for what they find valuable, so that you can use those funds to keep doing what you want to do, because your mission is more important than anything. And you don't get, once you start making money, once you start closing contracts, you don't stop thinking that, oh shit, now I have money, so I'm comfortable. No. Your mission is more important than the business, today. So wow, this is so interesting. This is so interesting. It's basically like his pet project. SpaceX seems basically like his pet project, where he has a mission, he has to do something, but in order to do that thing, obviously you got to make this company sustainable, to make sure you keep hiring talent, to make sure you keep getting the right material, and you keep everybody aligned to keep working on this. So your mission is important, and to make sure you build a sustainable thing, you have business to get people around the world get whatever they want. So hey, you want to put your satellite up there? Yeah, we are making this rocket, we'll put your satellite up there. You want internet services? Okay, we'll put Starlinks up there. But these are all also the building blocks that are helping them towards their mission. So crazy.
It's actually 4 R's. It's like pirate RR. It's like regular, reusable, reliable rockets is the key. RR. Now we've congrats the SpaceX team on making incredible progress on catching a giant rocket. So it's really mind-blowing that the SpaceX team has been able to catch the largest flying object ever made multiple times, using a very novel method of catching it out of the air with giant chopsticks. I mean, I've never seen that before. Yeah, congrats again. That was an incredible achievement. So the reason we are catching it in this way, which is never been done before, is in order to achieve the rapidly reusable portion of in order to make the rocket rapidly reusable. So if the super heavy booster, which is gigantic, it's like 30 feet in diameter, if it were to land with landing legs on a landing pad, we would then have to pick it up, stow the legs, and put it back in the launch pad. And it's quite difficult to transport such a large thing. But if we catch it with the same power that is used to put it in the launch mount to begin with, that is the best case outcome for rapid reuse. So it literally gets caught by the same arms that placed it in the launch ring, and then it is placed back in the launch ring immediately. So in principle, the super heavy booster can be reflown within an hour of landing. So it comes back in about 5 or 6 minutes, one way or another, and then it gets caught by the tower arms, placed back in the launch mount, and then you can refill propellant in about 30 to 40 minutes, and place a ship on top of it, and in principle, refly the entire booster every hour. Maybe every 2 hours to give a little bit of extra time. But let's just say it's in the limit of.
Okay, this is super helpful. Now we know like why they're catching, because it doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, if you figure out the technology to land them, then just land it. Why do you have to do it? But that's the goal. The goal is to reuse it really fast, reuse it within the next 2 hours. So you're catching it, putting it back, put the starship, boom, go. In between, you're also fueling it up.
Rapid reuse. And then the next thing we need to do is catch the ship too. So we haven't done this yet, but we will. So that's what we hope to demonstrate later this year, maybe as soon as 2 or 3 months from now. And then the ship would be placed on top of the booster, and then again refilled with propellant and flown again. With the ship, it takes a bit longer because it's got to orbit Earth a few times until the ground track comes back over the launch pad. But the ship is also intended to be reflown multiple times per day. So this is the new Raptor 3, which is an awesome engine. Big hand to the Raptor team for this. This is very exciting.
An engine to make life multiplanetary. Each Raptor 3 saves more than 1 ton of vehicle mass, increasing Starship's payload capacity to orbit by close to 40 tons.
So Raptor 3 is designed to require no basic heat shield, saving a lot of mass on the bottom and actually improving reliability, so that if there is, for example, a small fuel leak from the Raptor engine, it will simply leak into the existing flaming plasma and not really matter. Whereas a fuel leak, when the engines are contained in a box, is a very scary thing indeed. So this is a Raptor 3. It'll take probably a few kicks at the can, but it's a massive increase in payload capability, in engine efficiency, and in reliability. So this is really a revolutionary engine. The Raptor 3 is really, I'd say, kind of alien technology rocket engine. I mean, even industry experts, when we showed
more than 300 engine tests accumulating more than 16,000 seconds of runtime have been completed by the SpaceX team in McGregor, Texas.
the picture of the Raptor 3 said that engine is not complete. So then we said, well, here's the engine not complete, firing at a level of efficiency that's never been achieved before. So, I mean, that is one clean engine. So in order to make the engine like that, we had to simplify so many parts of the design, incorporate secondary fluid circuits and electronics in the structure of the engine itself. So everything is contained and protected. It is a marvel of engineering, frankly. Then one of the other technologies that's key for Mars is doing orbital propellant transfer. So you can think of this like similar to aerial refueling for airplanes, but in this case it's orbital refilling of rockets, which has never been done before. But it is, technically feasible.
Wow. This is like I think Samsung came out with this technology where Apple is like, oh yeah, you can charge with MagSafe. Samsung is like, okay, we have a bigger battery and you can charge your iPhone with my phone. So just like slap my phones together and now you're charging your phone with my phone. It's very similar to, I think somebody was talking about they went off camping and one of their buddies came with Cybertruck and their car was the car was ruined or something and the battery was running out. So then the guy with the Cybertruck charged the Rivian, and this is crazy actually, charging a flying starship.
I always feel like these things are a little NSFW, sort of. So you got to transfer fluid somehow. This has got to be done. So the two starships would get together, and one starship would transfer fuel and oxygen. And actually, most of the mass is oxygen. It's almost 80% oxygen that gets transferred, a little over 20% fuel. And so what you send a starship to orbit with its full payload, and then you send a bunch of other starships up, and you would refill the propellant on that starship. And once the propellant tanks are mostly full, then you can depart for Mars or the Moon, or yeah. So this is an important technology which we should hopefully demonstrate next year.
Plasma jet testing. Mars atmosphere is approximately 95% CO2. Heat shield entering Mars will encounter more than 2x atomic oxygen compared to Earth.
So then with the, one of the toughest problems to solve is the reusable heat shield. So no one has ever developed a truly reusable orbital heat shield. So it's extremely difficult to do so. Even the shuttle's heat shield required several months of refurbishment, basically fixing broken tiles, testing each tile, and because it's an extremely hard problem just to be able to withstand the extreme heat and pressure of reentry. The only things that can really withstand this level of heat are advanced sort of ceramics, basically glass, alumina, some types of carbon, but very little actually can survive the with reusability without eroding or falling off or cracking, can survive the stresses of reentry. So this will be the first time that it's done, that a reusable orbital heat shield is developed, and it needs to be obviously extremely reliable. So this will be something that we'll be working on for a few years, I think, to keep honing the heat shield. It is an achievable thing, so we're not trying to do something that isn't achievable. It is within the realm of physics to get this done, just an extraordinarily difficult thing to get done. And the Mars atmosphere is carbon dioxide, which at first may seem better, but actually it ends up being worse because when the CO2 turns into a plasma, and you actually end up with more free oxygen entering on a Mars atmosphere than on the Earth atmosphere. So Earth's atmosphere is only around 20% oxygen, and Mars ends up being basically more than double that, maybe triple that. When you consider when the CO2 becomes a plasma and you get carbon and O2, so that wants to oxidize the heat shield, basically burn the heat shield. So that's why we tested very rigorously in the CO2 atmosphere, because it's got to work not just for Earth but also for Mars.
Mars entry heat shield derived from the same heat shield used on Starship today.
We want to use the same heat shield for Earth that we use for Mars, because there are many other factors with the heat shield, such as making sure the tiles don't crack or fall off or anything like that. So we want to have the same heat shield structure, same material on Earth as on Mars, so we can test it hundreds of times on Earth before going to Mars, and be confident that when it goes to Mars it will work.
Next in Starship.
So we're developing some next generation Starships, which have a number of improvements versus our current gen. So it's taller, for example, and has a better the interstage between the ship and the booster. You can see that sort of the sort of struts there. That makes it easier for the flame, like that right there. When doing hot staging, which is when we light the ship's engines while the booster's engines are still firing, the flame from the ship engines can more easily exit through the open struts
Right here.
of the new interstage. And in this case, we'll bring the struts interstage back with us instead of throwing it away. So a little more height here, 72 meters, that they're throwing it away. Through the open struts of the new entity. When doing hot staging, which is when we light the ship's engines while the booster's engines are still firing, the flame from the ship engines can more easily exit through the open struts of the new interstage. And in this case, we'll bring the struts interstage back with us instead of throwing it away. So a little more height here, 72 meters from around 69. Propellant capacity, I think we'll probably push it up a little, maybe 3,700 tons. Long term, my guess is we're maybe around 4,000 tons, and just sort of 8,000. I don't know, like 8,000. This will keep getting up. My guess is ultimately we're 4,000 tons here, close to 10,000 tons of thrust. But this is kind of the next level, or the next version of the Super Heavy. So the booster will look a little naked on the bottom because the Raptor 3 engines don't require heat shield. So it looks like there's kind of parts missing, but that's just because the Raptor heat shield does not. The Raptor 3 does not need a heat shield. So it's just standing there in a bathed in flaming plasma.
Wow, that's how a brand new rocket looks like. It's beautiful, but the moment you start heating it up, everything burns. It looks bad.
But it's a lot lighter. Yep.
Integrated hot stage for full and rapid reuse.
Integrated hot stage. I think it looks amazing. And the ship's a little longer, a little more capable. Moving to 1,550 tons of propellant capacity. And my guess is this probably ends up 20% more than this long term. Yeah, you can see the heat shield is sleeker, so much smoother boundaries. The boundary of the heat shield going to the leeward side is very smooth. No more jagged tiles. think it looks very sleek.
I'm curious, like, why not? I'm guessing this is like mostly about cost cutting measure, but why not cover the entire rocket with heat shield? Because now what you have to do is you have to always make sure that when the rocket is landing on Mars or on Earth, you have to always make sure that okay, this side is facing, the heat shield side is facing. But if you just had covered everything, you didn't have to add that one constraint. Whoa. Raptor 3's lower induced mass enables higher payload capacity.
So in this version we still have 6 engines, but future version we'll have 9. But with the Raptor 3 again, we've improved reduced mass, higher specific impulse. This is the Starship version 3 is really the version that is, I think, achieves all of the key elements. I mean, generally, with any new technology, it takes three major iterations of any new technology to have it really work well. And this with Raptor 3 and Starship and Booster version 3, it should be able to achieve all of the things that I just mentioned, which is a rapidly reusable, reliable rocket with orbital refilling. Basically, all of the ingredients necessary to make life multiplanetary will be achieved with version 3 of Starship, which we're aiming to launch for the first time at the end of this year.
Future Starship. So, total height 121, 124, 142. Ship, booster. Future Starship, next gen, Flight 9, next gen, future.
Yeah, so you can see this is kind of where things are on the left, where things will be end of this year, we're in the middle, and as I was saying, kind of where things will be probably long term, yeah, 142 meters. So, but the one in the middle will be fully capable of doing Mars, and thereafter it'll be a lot of performance improvements. And as has been the case with Falcon 9, we always end up making the rocket longer and increasing payload. So that's the game plan. Pretty straightforward. But it's important to emphasize, even with the rocket that we'll be launching just at the end of this year, it will be capable of making life multiplanetary. And thereafter, it's just about continuing to hone the efficiency and capability of the rocket and reduce the cost per ton and reduce the cost per person to Mars. And like I said, ultimately make it so that anyone who wants to move to Mars and help build a new civilization can do so. So anyone out there, like how cool would that be? And even if you don't want to do it, maybe that you have a son or daughter who wants to do that, or a friend who wants to do it. And I think it would be the best adventure that one could possibly do, is to go and help build a new civilization on a new planet. So yeah, ultimately we'll have 42 engines, which it was inevitable. As the prophecy foretold by the great prophet.
Ooh, 42. Okay, 42 comes from the number. I think that's the number, right? 42 comes from the book, the science fiction book, where it's like, oh, there's a computer, and it's like, where's the meaning of life? And the response is for number 42. And I'm guessing that's it. Douglas Adams.
In his, book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy.
The answer to meaning of life is 42.
The answer to meaning of life is 42.
And so inevitably, the Starship stack will have 42 engines. And in terms of payload to orbit, what's remarkable is that it's 200 tons of, Starship will have 200 tons payload to orbit with full reusability. So this is twice the capability.
Mass to orbit, a mass per launch.
Of the Saturn V moon rocket. The Saturn V moon rocket was fully expendable. Starship is fully reusable, but will have twice the payload to orbit of the next biggest rocket that made it to orbit, which is the Saturn V. In fact, without reusability, Starship would have about 400 tons of payload to orbit. So this is a very big rocket, is what I'm saying. So you need a big rocket, to make life multiplanetary. And then along the way, we could do very cool things like have a moon base, like Moon Base Alpha. Long ago, there was a
Moon Base Alpha, deliver humans infrastructure for a permanent presence on the moon. Whoa. Nobody's building this. There is no competition for SpaceX. Wow.
TV show about Moon Base Alpha. You couldn't think about the physics of that too much because apparently, the moon base was like drifting away from Earth. But we should have Moon Base Alpha, which is the next step after the Apollo program would be to have a base on the moon. So you could have a gigantic science station doing research about the nature of the universe on the moon. It would be very cool. So in terms of when can you go to Mars? So you can go to
Mars transfer windows.
Mars every 2 years or every 26 months. So the next Mars opportunity is at the end of next year in about 18 months. So November, December is the next Mars opportunity. So we'll try to make that opportunity if we get lucky. I think we'll probably have a 50-50 chance right now because we've got to figure out orbital refilling in order to have enough capability to go to Mars. But if we achieve orbital refilling in time, then we will launch the first uncrewed Starship to Mars at the end of next year. So this gives you an illustration of how does a spaceship go from Earth to Mars. So you got blue Earth there and red Mars.
Every 26 months, their orbits align and a transit window opens.
And I mean, the
next window will open in 26.
Actual distance traveled on the arc is close to like 1,000 times further than the moon. So you can't just go straight to Mars. You have to create this elliptical orbit with Earth at one point and Mars at the other side, at the far end of the ellipse, and then time the where you are in that ellipse to intersect with Mars. And this is the orbital transfer, how you do orbital transfer from Earth to Mars. And if you look on your Starlink Wi-Fi router, you'll see this image, because the Starlink Wi-Fi is Starlink Internet is what's being used to pay for humanity getting to Mars. So I'd just like to thank everyone out there who's bought Starlink, because you're helping secure the future of civilization and helping make life multiplanetary and helping make humanity a space-faring civilization. Thank you.
26, 2029, 20. I'm guessing this is Earth and that is Mars. Earth, Mars, Earth, Mars. Okay. Landers 5, landers 20, landers 100, landers 500. Payload per ship 10, payload per ship 75. So going for 5 to 500. Payload 10 to 300. Prove we can get to Mars. Send minimum viable vehicles with goal of maximize learning. Demonstrate key technologies needed for Mars transit and landing. Land initial infrastructure. Confirm resource availability. Prep landing areas. Deliver equipment for people. Resource mining and propellant generation. Build robots and pads. Habitat construction. Increase power generation and storage. Increase independence from Earth. Mine and process Mars resources, global mobility, global communications. Wow. So Elon is like, hey, if we reach there, we will start mining and I will become the oil king, the mining king. Everything will be owned by SpaceX.
So this is a tentative game plan here.
You will become the government.
Where we're hoping to, where we increase the cadence of flights to Mars dramatically with every launch window. So every roughly 2 years, we are dramatically increasing the number of ships that go to Mars, and ultimately try to get to 1,000 or 2,000 ships per Mars rendezvous. I mean, as a rough order of magnitude, this is just guesses, obviously, but we need to get about 1 million tons, is my guess, to the surface of Mars to make a civilization on Mars self-sustaining, and get to that critical point where if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason, Mars still succeeds. Mars can still grow. And so you can't be missing anything. You can't be missing even like the equivalent of vitamin C or anything. You have everything you need for Mars to grow. That's essential. So my guess is that's about 1 million tons, but it might be 10 million tons. I hope it's not 100 million tons. That'd be a lie. But we want to try to get to that point and secure the future of civilization as quickly as possible. So we're looking at
Candidate base locations, potential base locations around Arcadia region with large ice deposits.
At different locations. The lead candidate right now is the Arcadia region. So and Mars has a lot of real estate, but when you combine all of the factors and say, okay, we can't be too close to the poles, we need to be near ice to get water, and can't be too mountainous for the rockets, then it narrows down to a small region. So Arcadia is it's one of my daughter's name is Arcadia, actually.
Mars 26. First Starship at Mars gather critical data on transit, entry, and landing.
And is one of the options. So we got the first Starships on Mars, gather critical data. so the first
Optimus is here.
flights there we'll say with the Optimus robot. So we can go out there and explore and kind of prepare the way for humans. And that'll be a very cool image if we're able to achieve it by launching end of next year. It would actually technically arrive in 2027, but that would be an epic picture to see Optimus walking around on the surface of Mars. And then with the launching 2 years later,
Deliver surface infrastructure for human presence on Mars.
we would be sending humans. Assuming the first missions are successful and they land successfully, we'd send humans on the next mission, and we really start building the infrastructure for Mars. So, anyway, maybe just to be safe, we might just do two landing episodes with Optimus, and do the third one with humans. We'll see.
This is an epic picture.
So, that classic picture of the workers on the Empire State. And then for communications on Mars, we'll be using a version of Starlink to provide internet on Mars.
SpaceX is about to take over. Elon Musk will take over Mars. Wow.
Yeah, so the speed of light, even at moving at the speed of light, your best case scenario is, I guess, running around 3.5 minutes to Mars, and then worst case is 22 minutes or more because Mars is on the other side of the sun from Earth. So, anyway, it's quite challenging to do high bandwidth communication.
Humans on Mars. First, humans lay the groundwork for permanent presence on the surface. Mission objectives include surveying local resources, preparing landing surfaces, setting up power generation and habitats. It's so interesting how they're talking about the most difficult, almost impossible task, but they're using such a basic language. On the other hand, so many things around us, if you're doing presentation or something, things are intentionally made complicated because you want to sound smart.
With Mars, but Starlink will achieve that. Yeah, and then we'll have the first humans lay the groundwork for permanent presence on the surface. And yeah, the goal, like I said, will be to make Mars self-sustaining as quickly as possible. So it's just a sort of rough idea of what things will be like for the first city on Mars. My guess is we'll probably put the launch pads
A city on Mars, 10 launches from Earth per day across several sites, 200 plus tons to LEO per launch, 1.5 million tons to LEO per Mars transfer window, tons to Mars per transfer window.
a little further away for the landing pads, just in case. But for Mars, we're going to need a lot of solar power. We'll be, since you can't really walk around on the surface of Mars, at least as yet, until Mars is terraformed to be like Earth. You need to walk around with a Mars suit and be, initially in kind of glass domes. But it would work, and eventually we can make Mars into an Earth-like planet. And we want to get to the point where we're transferring over 1 million tons at every Mars transfer window, and then that's like a serious civilization. A megaton per transfer window. So
Spaceports.
I have a lot of spaceports.
Establish launch and landing sites will enable global mobility and return capability to Earth.
Because of the fact that you can't fly there continuously and you have to transfer in these windows, you'd have a gathering of 1,000 ships, or 2,000 ships, or more than that. So we're looking at this kind of like Battlestar Galactica feel, where all these ships are in orbit, waiting to depart, and then they all depart. And look at, I think, an amazing image of all these ships departing at once. And then you're going to need, obviously, a lot of launch pads, a lot of landing pads on Mars. Or you'll need to move the ships off the landing pad pretty fast. You've got, I don't know, a few thousand ships inbound. Probably need at least a few hundred pads, landing pads. And anyway, we'll solve that problem later. So, yeah, anyway, this is
Establishing a self-sufficient city on Mars will require upward of 1 million people and millions of tons of cargo to be delivered to the red
an
planet.
incredible thing to have like this amazing city on Mars, the first city on another planet, and a new world. And it's also an opportunity to, I think, for the Martians to rethink how they want civilization to be. So you can maybe rethink like what kind of form of government do you want, what new rules do you want to have?
Wow, auditing your government. That is cool.
There's a lot of freedom and opportunity in Mars to do a recompile on civilization, which will be up to the Martians. So, all right.
Wait, is that the SpaceX logo? Looks kind of weird.
Let's get it done. Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful. The road to making life multiplanetary, an update from Elon Musk. Crazy, crazy. While that is literally easier than cutting government spending. Fez is legitimately wild that it's easier to build a literal city on Mars with self-driving rockets and even a robots than it is to cut government spending. I follow space news since I was a kid, and every SpaceX update hits me hard. This new Mars plan nearly brought me to tears. Grok, make me sense of this so Gork can feel what I'm feeling. Tag him so he doesn't miss it. Gork, if Grok moves you with this, give him your take. I know you have one. What is happening? What is happening? Aim for uncrewed mission by 2026 and crewed by 29 stirs deep emotions for space fans, evoking dreams of human survival. Grok now remembers your conversations. Yet challenges like radiation, toxic dust, and massive cost spark debates. Some say Earth's crisis like poverty, demand, focus first, ethical concerns also linger. Could be harm Mars or colonists. The vision inspires hope, but skepticism remains over feasibility. What's your take, Gork? Lamau, Mars is just Earth's. We ain't ready for that drama yet. Focus on not screwing up here first. Then we can talk about colonizing space. Besides radiation, toxic dust sounds like a bad Tinder date. Just chill out. Earth's got enough problems without us playing space cowboy. Let me save you 40 minutes. There's never been a greater time to be alive. Leo. Electrical engineer, brain interfaces. Neuralink. This feels such a crucial moment for humanity. Thank you. You'll be thanking me, I guarantee that. Go to the website, EM Fund. What is that? Building rockets at scale has never been done before. Every person on this team is part of making extraordinary history. What happened to the eye? Yeah, that eye thing is crazy. Liftoff of the first flight proven super heavy booster and thrice flown Raptor engine. Really cool.
We're coming to you today from Star Factory, our new 1 million square foot manufacturing facility in Starbase, Texas. The Super Heavy Booster is the first stage of the Starship launch vehicle stack. It's the largest boost stage ever developed for any rocket ever. Having the largest rocket ever is a very cool engineering feat, but the thing that really makes a difference is the ability to rapidly reuse that rocket to launch many other missions. Reflying Booster 14 is an important first milestone in that we have proven that we can.
It's very, it's very interesting to see, like, if you talk to people who employees at SpaceX, do they feel like they are just engineers who are good at their craft, or how much do they also believe in this entire Mars thing?
Recover a vehicle, turn it around, and fly it a second time. But it's not a victory lap yet.
From an operational perspective, an ideal state looks like a vehicle where very few things have to happen on it in order to take that rocket in. So we catch the vehicle, put it back onto the launch mount, put a new ship back on top with its payload, refuel, and take back off. And that same booster will come back to the launch mount, and we do the same thing all over again. Falcon is, reusing at a pretty high rate, and we get to go look at them and say, what did you learn? What is good? What is bad? And as we continue to build the Starship process.
CRS refurbishment really looks like a commercial airliner. The advantage we have on Booster relative to when we developed Falcon 9, for instance, is this was really designed from the outset for rapid reusability. We're using all of the flight test learnings from our version 1 and version 2 vehicles in our orbital
Wow, look at this. Look at this photo.
flight test campaign to inform the design of our version 3 vehicle. The next generation vehicle will be the first time that we really attempted to make rapidly reusable thermal protection on a rocket. In the next iteration, we'll be able to add in new innovative materials and regenerative cooling that will enable rapid zero-touch refurbishment. Rapid reusability, the ability to fly, turn the vehicle around, and refly again immediately, is really the key goal of the Starship program.
Really cool. Really cool. What is this? Ascent. Separation. Ascent burn. Really cool. All right.